Ever wondered what happens when history, design, and pure innovation collide? Well, buckle up, because we're diving into the world of some of the rarest, most mind-blowing motorcycles from the 1980s. These bikes aren't just about horsepower and speed, they're about breaking limits. So, get ready to be amazed by machines that changed the game and remain as elusive today as they were back then. 15. Kaja Aladura 650. The Kaja Aladura 650 was born from the ashes of Ducati's financial struggles. Essentially, a Ducati Panta in disguise, but far rarer. This Italian rarity was crafted during the 1980s, a time when Kaja owned Ducati and sought to make a mark with sporty middleweights. Underneath its sleek red and silver bodywork, the Aladura 650 housed a 649 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine, producing 55 horsepower. It wasn't just about the numbers, though. The sound of its desmodromic valves gave it a signature growl that turned heads. What made it rare? Kaja's limited production numbers, combined with its unique positioning as a Ducati sibling, meant only a few were ever made. The Aladura had a steel trellis frame, lending it excellent road manners for twisty European mountain roads. Its sharp, angular design was classic 80s Italian, like a designer suit, but on two wheels. The handling was lively, but the bike wasn't overly intimidating, which made it approachable for riders wanting a taste of Italian flair. Unfortunately, it was overshadowed by its Ducati cousins, leading many to overlook its brilliance. 14. Kawasaki Z1300. The Kawasaki Z1300 was nicknamed the Six-Pack because of its massive inline-six engine, a beast of engineering that devoured road miles like candy. Launched in 1979 but hitting its stride in the early 80s, the Z1300 was Kawasaki's response to the horsepower wars of the time. Its 1,286 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled six-cylinder engine churned out 120 horsepower, a staggering figure for the era. This made it not only one of the most powerful bikes of its time, but also one of the heaviest, tipping the scales at over 300 kilograms. The Z1300 wasn't about subtlety. It was massive, with a wide fuel tank, towering handlebars, and a road presence that could rival small cars. Yet, it handled surprisingly well for its size, thanks to its low center of gravity and smooth power delivery. The addition of features like electronic ignition and shaft drive made it feel futuristic back in the day. Its rarity stems from its complexity and price. It was expensive to buy and maintain, which limited its sales. 13. Norton Classic Rotary. The Norton Classic Rotary didn't just sound different, it looked different, with an engine that seemed plucked from a sci-fi movie. Released in 1987, the Norton Classic Rotary was a limited production marvel. Only 100 units were built, making it one of the rarest motorcycles of the decade. What made it so special was its Wankel rotary engine, a 588 cubic centimeter twin rotor unit that produced around 79 horsepower. It didn't behave like a traditional engine, revving smoothly and offering a distinct hum rather than a growl. The bike's design was minimalistic yet striking, with a white and black paint scheme that exudes class. Its lightweight frame and unique engine layout made it feel agile, though its unconventional power delivery took some getting used to. The handling was nimble, but it was best enjoyed at a steady pace, where its futuristic engineering could shine. Norton built this bike as a showcase of British innovation, but its high price tag and unusual engine technology scared off buyers. It was also challenging to maintain, which meant many were retired early. Suzuki Katana 1100, GSX 1100S. The Suzuki Katana 1100 was named after the Japanese sword, and just like its namesake, it was sharp, sleek, and made for cutting through the competition. When Suzuki hired German designers to rethink the look of motorcycles, they created a futuristic masterpiece. Launched in 1981, the GSX 1110S Katana came with a 1,074 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline-4 engine that produced a jaw-dropping 111 horsepower, making it one of the fastest bikes of its time. Its angular bodywork, pop-up headlight, in some models, and sloping tank screamed 80s sci-fi. This was a bike that looked like it had been beamed down from another planet. Handling-wise, it was stable at high speeds, thanks to its advanced, for the time, chassis design, but tight corners weren't its best friend. Many loved it. Others couldn't handle its radical look. Over time, production numbers stayed low, and original models became sought-after collectibles. 11. Moto Guzzi Leemon 1000. The Moto Guzzi Leemon 1000's V-twin engine is mounted sideways, making it look like it's flexing its muscles at every stoplight. The Leemon 1000, introduced in 1984, was Moto Guzzi's answer to the superbikes of the 80s. With a 949 cubic centimeter air-cooled transverse V-twin engine producing 81 horsepower, it wasn't the fastest on paper, but it had a unique charm. The shaft drive and low-end torque made it a joy for real-world riding, while its engine layout made it stand out visually. Its design was all about blending sportiness with Italian elegance. The angular fairing and sleek tail section looked aggressive, but it had a touch of refinement that only Moto Guzzi could pull off. Handling was steady and predictable, though it felt more at home on long stretches than on tight switchbacks. What makes it rare? Limited production numbers, combined with Moto Guzzi's niche appeal, meant few were sold compared to Japanese competitors. Over the years, many were modified or neglected, making pristine examples incredibly hard to find. Today, owning one is like owning a vintage Italian sports car. Got a rare bike you love? Drop a comment below and let us know which one you'd want in your collection. 10. Honda CX500 Turbo. The Honda CX500 Turbo was the first mass-produced motorcycle to use turbocharging, making it a trailblazer in 1980s technology. Turbochargers were the craze in the early 80s, and Honda decided to bring that innovation to motorcycles. The CX500 Turbo featured a 497 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin engine with a turbocharger that bumped power up to 82 horsepower, impressive for its size. Its futuristic design matched its cutting-edge technology. The fairing looked aerodynamic, with bold turbo decals that screamed 80s swagger. Features like fuel injection and digital ignition made it feel like something out of a James Bond movie. However, its handling was a mixed bag. Turbo lag meant power delivery wasn't smooth, and the bike's weight made it challenging in tight spots. Riders loved it for its straight-line speed and the whoosh of the turbo spooling up. Honda only produced the CX500 Turbo for 2 years, 1982 to 1983, partly because it was expensive and complex to maintain. As a result, it became a rare collector's item. 9. BMW K1. The BMW K1 was nicknamed the Flying Brick because of its chunky engine design, but it was more about flying than bricks. In 1988, BMW decided to shock the motorcycle world. The K1 wasn't just a bike, it was an engineering experiment wrapped in bold red and yellow graphics. Its 987 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine with 100 horsepower was tucked into a fully enclosed aerodynamic body that looked like it belonged in a wind tunnel. At the time, this was BMW's attempt to create the ultimate high-speed touring bike. The K1 wasn't for shy riders. Its design was controversial, and its handling required a steady hand. The bike was stable at high speeds, but at low speeds, its heavy weight could make parking feel like a workout. It featured a shaft drive and anti-lock brakes, rare for the era, proving BMW was thinking ahead. It was expensive, and not everyone loved the polarizing looks. The K1 was ahead of its time, and many riders weren't ready for such a radical machine. 8. Suzuki RG500 Gamma. The Suzuki RG500 Gamma was inspired by Suzuki's Grand Prix racing bikes and brought that same DNA to the streets. Introduced in 1985, the RG500 Gamma was a street-legal race bike disguised as a road machine. It was powered by a 498 cubic centimeter two-stroke square-4 engine, producing 95 horsepower. For a bike that weighed just 154 kilograms, this made it blisteringly fast, perfect for thrill seekers who wanted to live life in the fast lane. Its boxy design and lightweight aluminum frame made it look like a racing machine. The handling was razor-sharp, and it practically begged riders to lean hard into corners. The sound of the two-stroke engine was music to the ears of 80s motorcycle fans. The RG500 Gamma's rarity stems from its short production run and its reputation as a demanding bike. Two-stroke engines required constant attention, and many riders simply couldn't keep up with its maintenance needs. As emissions laws tightened, bikes like the RG500 became extinct. 7. Harley-Davidson XR1000. The Harley-Davidson XR1000 was the rebellious cousin of the XR750, a dirt track legend. It brought racing vibes to the streets in style. In 1983, Harley-Davidson released the XR1000, a bike designed for those who craved speed without sacrificing American muscle. It was powered by a 998 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, equipped with dual carburetors mounted high on the cylinders. This setup produced 70 horsepower, plenty to get your adrenaline pumping. The XR1000 had a stripped-down, raw look that screamed performance. Its exhaust pipes jutted out dramatically, and the silver and black paint job gave it a no-nonsense vibe. It was essentially a street-legal racer, blending Harley's iconic sound with a more aggressive attitude. Despite its performance, the XR1000 didn't sell well. It was expensive, and Harley's core audience wasn't ready for a sporty departure from their usual cruisers. Only around 1,000 units were made, making it a rare find today. 6. Kawasaki KR250 KR1. The Kawasaki KR250, released in the early 80s, was a bike built for the racetrack, but allowed to roam free on the streets. It had a 249 cubic centimeter two-stroke tandem twin-cylinder engine that delivered around 45 horsepower. That may not sound like much today, but back then, it made this lightweight bike a rocket. Its design was sleek and aggressive, with minimal bodywork and a racing-inspired fairing. Handling was its strong suit. The KR250 was built to carve corners, and its lightweight frame made it feel like an extension of the rider. The tandem twin engine layout, where the cylinders were positioned one behind the other, kept the bike slim and aerodynamic, a clever trick for the time. The rarity of the KR250 lies in its niche appeal. It was too specialized for the average rider and never achieved mainstream popularity. Plus, two-stroke engines became a dying breed as stricter emissions laws came into play. 5. Harley-Davidson Electra Glide FLH1200, 1970s edition. The Electra Glide's name wasn't just for show. It was one of the first Harley-Davidsons with electric start, which felt like magic back in the day. The Electra Glide was already an icon, but the FLH1200 of the late 70s took it up a notch. Powered by a 1,200cc shovelhead V-twin engine, this bike wasn't about raw speed. It was about commanding the road with authority. Producing 58 horsepower, it was designed for long, comfortable rides, but it had enough grunt to remind you it was still a Harley. Its design was classic Harley, big, heavy, and unapologetically American. The chrome detailing, large front fairing, and hard saddlebags made it a head-turner. Handling wasn't its strongest point, especially in tight spots, but that wasn't the point. This was a bike meant to cruise highways and soak up miles. The rarity comes from a specific issue. Rear brake failures plagued some models, leading to recalls. Many were taken off the road or heavily modified, leaving original versions in short supply. 4. Yamaha XS650. The Yamaha XS650 was nicknamed the poor man's Triumph because it mimicked British bikes, but was far more reliable. Released in the early 70s and refined through the 80s, the XS650 was Yamaha's attempt to capture the spirit of British parallel twins while adding Japanese reliability. Its 654 cubic centimeter air-cooled parallel twin engine produced around 50 horsepower, perfect for spirited rides without overwhelming the rider. The design was simple yet stylish, with a teardrop tank, spoked wheels, and chrome accents. It was a bike that looked just as good parked outside a diner as it did cruising down the road. Handling was balanced, and the XS650 gained a reputation for being a versatile machine that could handle daily commutes and longer journeys alike. So, why is it rare? The XS650 had a common issue with throttle cables jamming, leading to sudden, uncontrollable acceleration. Yamaha issued recalls, but by then, many bikes had been pulled off the road or damaged in accidents. Those that survived became highly sought after, especially by custom builders. 3. Ducati 750F. 1. The Ducati 750F1 was so Italian that its color scheme, red, white, and green, looked like it could double as the national flag. The Ducati 750F1, introduced in 1985, was the last air-cooled twin-cylinder sports bike Ducati made before embracing liquid cooling. Powered by a 748 cubic centimeter desmodromic L-twin engine producing 76 horsepower, this bike wasn't about sheer speed, it was about delivering a thrilling, raw experience. Its tubular steel trellis frame was lightweight and stiff, making it feel like a scalpel on twisty roads. Design-wise, the F1 was unapologetically sporty, with a full fairing that looked like it belonged on a racetrack. The exposed trellis frame added a mechanical charm, while the dual exhaust pipes hinted at its racing pedigree. Handling was precise but demanded respect. This wasn't a bike for casual riders. Its rarity? The 750 F1 was produced in limited numbers, with fewer than 7,000 units ever made. Ducati also released special edition variants like the Montjuic, Laguna Seca, and Santa Monica, which were even scarcer. 2. Honda NR 750. The Honda NR 750 had oval pistons, which made it more unique than a pizza with square pepperoni. The Honda NR 750, launched in 1992, was a technological marvel disguised as a motorcycle. Its 748 cubic centimeter V4 engine used oval pistons with 8 valves per cylinder, producing 125 horsepower. This wasn't just an engine, it was an engineering flex designed to mimic the power of a V8 while staying within racing regulations. Its design was futuristic, with a sleek aerodynamic fairing and a single-sided swing arm. The under-seat exhausts gave it a clean, aggressive look, and the metallic red paint was pure eye candy. Every detail screamed exclusivity, from the carbon fiber bodywork to the digital dashboard. The NR 750 wasn't just rare, it was practically unattainable. Honda built only 300 units, and they cost a fortune. Most were snapped up by collectors, meaning few ever saw the open road. Handling was impeccable, but it wasn't the fastest bike of its time. Instead, it was a statement of Honda's engineering ambition. Today, the NR750 is a unicorn. If you see one, consider yourself lucky. 1. Bimota Tessi 1D. The Bimota Tessi 1D's front suspension didn't use a regular fork. Instead, it had a hub-center steering system that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. The Bimota Tessi 1D, introduced in 1990, wasn't just a motorcycle, it was an experiment in rethinking how bikes should be built. Powered by a Ducati 851904 cubic centimeter Desmodromic L-twin engine, it delivered 93 horsepower. But the engine wasn't the star here. The revolutionary chassis and steering system were. Instead of a traditional front fork, the Tessi 1D used a hub-center steering system. This separated braking forces from the suspension, improving stability during hard stops. The aluminum frame was an engineering masterpiece, with exposed linkages that made it look more like a mechanical sculpture than a motorcycle. The Tessi 1D's rarity is no surprise. Bimota, a boutique Italian manufacturer, built only a few hundred units, each handcrafted with meticulous attention to detail. It was expensive, quirky, and misunderstood by many riders, which only adds to its mystique today. Don't miss out on more thrilling motorcycle content. Subscribe now and ring the bell to stay updated on our latest video.